What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie2988 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet, and you're watching the only gaming news show that's still talking about Zelda for some reason. This week's episode is brought to you by Crunchyroll.com, which is the premier way to stream anime and manga across the internet direct to any device. In fact, Crunchyroll made it so easy to start watching anime again. I started watching it. You guys recommended JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, and if you want to hear about my impressions of that series, stick around to the end of the video, or you can go to crunchyroll.com/boogie, and you can start streaming right now, and your first month is free. So let's start with this little device right here. Normally I put a little graphic up here in the corner about whatever I'm talking about, so I thought I would put a thumbnail of me holding the device. And it is so stupid. I'm going to keep it there, though. That's funny. So the sales for the Nintendo Switch are strong. I mean, really strong. So strong that GameStop has called it phenomenal, and Nintendo themselves said that it had a stronger launch than the Wii did, and the Wii is the best-selling console of all time. Now, a strong start does not guarantee that the console will be a success, but it is a good indication. But of course, we all remember that the Dreamcast did launch, and it had phenomenal sales right at the beginning, but then the PlayStation 2 came out, and it made the success of the Dreamcast a distant dream. Cast. What this does mean, though, is that there's a good number of Switches already in people's hands, and consumer confidence is strong, and people are waiting for the next reissue so that they can get them, and scalpers are selling them for $200 or $300 more than they're actually worth. So I think you can say that the demand is there, and if the demand is there, that means the games are soon to follow. Basically, the way this works, as long as consumer confidence and consumer interest is there, and there's a good number of units already out in the wild and people like the device, this means companies are going to want to develop games. And we have seen people over the last couple of weeks say we are now developing this for the Switch or that for the Switch because they know they can turn a profit, unlike the Wii U, which they were terrified that it would barely break even. The biggest roadblock continues to be the chip that's inside here, and it's been confirmed after a teardown that this is a Tegra X1 chip, the same chip that was powering the NVIDIA Shield back in 2015. And yes, that does mean the system is way less powerful than the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4, but neither of those are tablets you can take with you. And if you go back and take a look at what all they were able to port to the Shield and all of the different versions of the games and the way that they looked on the Shield, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised what people will be able to do with this chip. And we got many developers very interested now. You got Capcom saying they're going to bring Resident Evil 7 and the engine that powers it to the Switch. You've got a new Pokemon game announced today, not just a port of Sun and Moons, but they're working on a new Pokemon game, or at least rumors are confirming that. And so I think with that, with developer interest and consumer interest coming together, you're going to see a very successful Switch, regardless of its many faults. For now, it's my little Binding of Isaac machine. So Mass Effect Andromeda is out this week, and despite its many flaws with faces and facial animation, the game seems to be getting a pretty average score. It's clocking in at about a 75 on Metacritic, and of course everybody is talking about the animations and the facial stuff, but that doesn't seem to take away from the actual gameplay elements of the game, which turn out to be pretty fun. The general consensus from reviewers says that yes, the bugs are definitely there. The faces look silly and the animation is silly, and sometimes the dialogue is just lifeless and frustrating, and it is buggy. You'll see monsters falling through the geometry, you'll see audio files playing wrongly or incorrectly or over top of each other, sometimes characters pop in and out, and sometimes even characters in cutscenes fail to load. But if you can look past the bugs and look past the shortcomings, apparently there is a fairly decent Mass Effect game underneath, including good gameplay, interesting multiplayer, and a fairly decent story. Basically, this game isn't for everybody. It's for die-hard Mass Effect fans, and if you are that person and you can overlook those shortcomings, you will have a fairly decent game that you should probably buy at some point during a sale. But this game had a huge budget, and it had a 5-year development cycle, so it's kind of interesting to ask the question, how did this happen? A lot of people have been talking about an interview granted last year by an ex-developer that worked for BioWare Montreal, and he said that the management system there, the reward and punishment system, and the way they force you to work creates an hostile work environment, and that could lead to this. And I don't know if that's true. It's impossible to say one way or the other based on one guy's testimony, but the end product does seem to support that. But I think the real culprit here is this game just wasn't ready. It got released too early. I think it probably needed another 6 months to a year in the development cycle to get the spit and the shine and the working out of the bugs that a good game deserves. And I don't think this game got that extra time, which stands to reason. It had already been developed for 5 years and already cost them multiple millions of dollars. So I can see why they just wanted to get it out and over with. And that sucks. That sucks for BioWare. It sucks for the publisher EA. It sucks for everybody that worked on this game. But more importantly, it sucks for the Mass Effect fans who have been waiting since the disappointing end of Mass Effect 3 to get this game. I'm sorry. But hey, if you wait 5 more years, you might get a better game. So see you in 2022. Now, I know you're looking at this logo and you're scratching your head. But yes, I do want to talk about No Man's Sky. And I think you'll like what I have to say. No Man's Sky got another huge update, and that update included vehicles and guns and all kinds of new stuff that's being added to the game. Some of that stuff we were promised that was supposed to be there at launch. This is the second really big update, and you know what? I expect a third and a fourth because that's what the team says they're doing. I think, as crazy as the idea sounds, I think they're going to try to make it the game that we were promised. And if that's what Sean Murray and his team is doing, that's incredible. I don't think that's ever been done before. We've seen people push out crappy games and then walk away. Sometimes they shut down the company. Sometimes they've just taken the money and run. Sometimes they've just gone on to develop a new product or even a sequel to try to redeem themselves. We have never seen a company just continue to push new ideas and new thoughts onto a relatively failed game to try to make it a better game. And they're not trying to sell this to you. You're getting this if you buy it for your initial buy-in price or if you get it on Steam sale or something like this. This has never been done before. This is unprecedented. Because, yeah, I guess we're all still a little bit mad at Sean for saying the things that he said and promising the game that we certainly didn't get. But if he is going to spend his team's money and his company's money to make this game the game that he promised, that means he's either one of the most honest, kind-hearted, and integral people on the planet, or he's fucking crazy. I think it might be a bit of both. But either way, it is remarkable. And I know they'll never see this, but I hope that they do. Sean Murray and Hello Games, thank you for doing this for your fans. Now, the last time I talked about Project Scorpio, I did say that I was concerned that the device would not be as powerful as they initially promised. And hardware leaks seem to confirm that it will not be as powerful as they initially promised. It still is going to be one of the best consoles ever released in terms of raw power and things that it can do. Now, Microsoft continues to insist that this game system will have 4K native games. And based on the power level leaks that we've seen, I don't know exactly how possible that is, but I hope that maybe those leaks are wrong or maybe they're doing something that we haven't figured out yet. But the other hardware leaks are very promising as well. It's going to have the internal power supply and the 4K Blu-ray player that you find in the Xbox One S. Those seemed like no-brainers, but then again, Sony did not include a 4K Blu-ray player in its own PlayStation Pro, which is really weird to me. But on top of that, there's also information saying that they are aware that not every consumer wants to buy a 4K television, but they may still want a Project Scorpio, so they are dedicating part of the development process to make sure that the console is capable of making a picture look even better in 1080p. And that makes sense because not everybody's going to want a 4K television, and not every game is going to be in 4K. But they want to make sure that the shaders and the anti-aliasing and other processes make sure that the Project Scorpio just straight up looks better than the Xbox One or the Xbox One S. Very solid initiative, and I approve of that. But my favorite rumor surrounding Project Scorpio right now is that they are promising support for, well, I guess they used to call it HoloLens, but now they're just referring to it as mixed reality headsets. But they are working on mixed reality headsets, and Project Scorpio will support it as well as Windows 10. Now, it won't support it at launch, so I don't expect there to be a simultaneous launch for it. It's not supported until sometime in 2018, but to know that that is coming for the Project Scorpio gives me another reason to be invested. And then finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about Jim Sterling from the Jimquisition show here on YouTube. Me and Jim, we've talked a little bit in the past. I don't always agree with everything Jim has to say, but I do appreciate him challenging my ideas with his Jimquisition episodes. Now, Jim is often in the news for controversial reasons, but the reason I wanted to talk about him today is because he posted a review for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, giving it a 7 out of 10. which did affect the overall score for it, dropping it from a 98 in Metacritic down to 97 because he was one of the later reviews, because Nintendo doesn't choose to work with him because he tends to grade them fairly harshly. Now, because of this review and because of the results of that review, some Zelda fans took the initiative to kind of launch an attack on Jim, including taking the Jimquisition website offline via DDoSing attacks, which is just absurd. Because it's okay for people to not like things that you like, and it's okay for people to like things that you don't. Please don't act like that. Please don't do that kind of thing. I don't always agree with Jim, and I staunchly disagree with his review of Legend of Zelda. He didn't like it. I do like it. We have very differing opinions on it. My review should be out by the end of the week. That said, Jim is welcome to his opinion, and he is a critic that I trust, and I hope that you can trust him too. And sometimes critics don't like games, or they don't like movies, and they don't like the things you want, and you should be adults about that. That said, though, Jim, seriously, man, a 7 out of 10? A 7 out of 10. A 7 out of 10? Jim, come on, 7? Who hurt you? And that's going to do it for this week. Thanks for watching. And guys, let's talk a little bit about Crunchyroll and the very weird show you recommended to me, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. So you guys recommended this anime to me based on the fact that I said I wanted something short and very unusual and something I would never see anywhere else. And let me tell you something, you nailed it, because this is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. Even though I'm only about 7 episodes in, I've loved every episode. The most bizarre thing, and I don't even think some of the younger audience watching this would realize, that names like Dio and REO Speedwagon, those are names of 80s bands. Those are names of 80s bands I grew up listening to. I don't know if you know that, but it's so weird that they did that. And that's not even the weirdest thing about the show. While I was watching the first episode, I thought you guys had made a mistake. I'll be honest, because it did not really hook me, but the stone mask kept me interested. From the second episode on, though, it was literally bizarre, because there's vampires and curses and murder and intrigue and Jack the Ripper. I don't know what the hell I'm watching. It is one of the most bizarre things I've ever watched. It is deliciously bizarre, and it lives up to the title, and I can't wait to finish the first season. So if you're one of the people that recommended that anime to me, thank you very much. I'd love to hear more recommendations. And if you like JoJo or you dislike it, let me know what you think in the comments section below. And if you've never watched it, or you don't watch anime and you're interested in getting started, please go to crunchyroll.com/boogie and sign up for 1 free month of streaming. You can watch JoJo or anything else that's on there. I would love to get more recommendations from new people like you. And if you do that, you'll be supporting me and the show. And I really hope that you do. As usual, guys, thank you so much for watching. I love you very much, and I'll speak with you again soon.